Joining me now live is Sunshine Coast Mayor Rosanna Natoli. Rosanna, thank you so much for your time. It seems as though the Sunshine Coast has largely been spared from the brunt of ex-tropical cyclone Alfred. But what are conditions like now?
Hello. It's almost a bit eerie because we've been waiting, and for a few days there, it looked like we might actually be where the cyclone crossed and we might bear the absolute worst, and that hasn't happened. So it's eerie now that in some parts of the Sunshine Coast we've had no rain. It is a little bit windy, but nothing more than a normal storm. But what we are hearing, of course, is that the rain is coming, and that later this afternoon and into this evening and tomorrow, that we will see a lot of really intense rain, and some isolated pockets could be, more than 200 millimetres, which could then lead to that flash flooding and to those rivers and creeks rising. We were worried about the storm surge, so now that isn't such a great risk, but then we've got the damaging waves again tonight with those winds increasing as well. So we are not out of the woods yet. It's almost as if we're still waiting for our turn with Alfred.
Well, I was reading earlier, Rosanna, that the beaches on the Sunshine Coast are now facing months of recovery due to the waves that you just mentioned there before. What's the damage like, or is it too hard yet to really get a proper assessment?
So we know that some of our authorities have already had drones along the coastline. So having a look at the measurement before and what has happened since. We know also that some of the dunes, we've got like a 3-metre cliff in some areas where the dunes and the sand has washed away. So we are asking people to stay off the dunes so that we can protect what is there. We need all the sand we can get to stay there. Plus, there are some turtle nests still in the dunes, so we are still protecting those with our turtle care volunteers. And also, we don't want the dunes to collapse and injure anybody, so we are asking people to stay away from those areas. But with those waves and knowing that we've got those damaging waves still to come tonight, the worst isn't over yet for us, so we are still waiting, watching, keeping the sandbags in place. We've got, hundreds of thousands of sandbags at homes right across the region because our residents are they've prepared. They've adopted the warnings. They've done what they could to keep their homes safe. So now we are just waiting to see what happens with Alfred now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a wait and watch situation, as you said. There are about 300,000 residents without power across Queensland. What is the situation in the Sunshine Coast? Have you got an update there on homes and power outages?
Yes. Well, of that 300,000, there are 300 on the Sunshine Coast. So for us, that gives you an indication that the winds really haven't been at that level where they've been bringing down very many trees. And we're also all on standby. And I know that Energex is on standby should that change this evening when we do get those gusts of dangerous winds this evening that could see those trees come onto the power lines and bring the power lines down. So far, only about 300, and hopefully that could be it, but you just really never know.
Rosanna, I guess that there might be a feeling now, okay, 300 homes without power is quite small in comparison to the rest of Queensland. The Sunshine Coast seems to have perhaps escaped the full brunt of it, that people might be thinking, okay, well, the worst is over now. We can go back to living our lives. We can get out. What would be your message to residents?
So absolutely, that it is a strange place to be in between, the storm that was, what we've seen happening down south. It's no time to be complacent. With the forecast of the rains to come this afternoon and into this evening, we know that those creeks and rivers can rise quite quickly if there is that really intense rainfall. So we are asking our residents and our visitors to really just remain vigilant. Don't be complacent. Let's just see this through and make sure that we are as safe as possible.
Yeah, some really good advice. Rosanna Natoli, thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening. Appreciate it.